All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Nisemonogatari, episode 9.
Oh,
all right, well, Tsukihi is pissed.
I wonder why.
She's going to get an all, y'all.
Yep.
She's like, hold on, stay here. I'm about to go full yandere. Be right back.
Yeah, just stay right there.
Right
in
there.
that position.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that scene, y'all. Oh my god.
Oh boy.
Oh my god. So
it's like a sex scene without any actual sex. Like and the whole thing of like afterwards, Araragi having the toothbrush and it's all shining and stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, we get what you're saying, but then he's holding it down at his side, right at the pelvic region, like
so.
Yeah,
I just can't wait to see basically the follow up. Basically, like how you follow up something like this.
How has the character dynamic between Karen and Araragi changed? We know that they apparently get along better after this.
Oh, they're gonna be a lot more connected now.
Yes, but
but there might be some other types of family drama now that they have to deal with.
Well, I mean, hey, as far as like lead-ins to like Tsukihi's arc of Nisei, yeah, this is definitely an effective way to do it. And Karen was wearing her clothes too.
I know.
Oh boy.
You know, given also like how kind of like just, you know, kind of breathing down his neck in a very loving way Senjugahara is. I hope this doesn't make the rounds basically through the rumor mill all the way back to Senjugahara.
Yeah, and then she's
for
just
Araragi's
like,
sake.
Apparently toothbrushes are your new fetish now, you know. Oh boy.
All right. There's a lot of cool stuff that they could go into here.
Yep.
And yeah. Without further ado, y'all, let's get into it. All right, everyone, we're going to be starting the episode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, now. The Araragi household. Multiple!
I wanted to see Tsukihi coming in with the all.
I guess not that as important, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is she naked again?
I think so. It said something closed on the side there.
She's reading VO.
Wait! The thought's enough for me. Wait! Okay, cool. I mean, why are people usually wearing clothes? I mean, clothes are such a bore. Like, I've told many people this many times, but I feel like the whole thing of clothes is... Like, I wouldn't be an exhibitionist necessarily. But I feel like...
what would you be?
No, I feel like the whole point of having your own place is so that
you can walk around naked.
Just wear nothing at all. Why wear clothes then? I mean, just can anyone out there relate? Like I love the way clothes look. I love the way clothes feel. But there's nothing better than the feeling of being naked. I don't know.
I love how there's all these different versions of Tsukihi, and so often they're contradicting each other, you know? Like, one's going one direction, the other one's going the other, or negative lighting, or, one's, like, right side up, one's upside down, you know, different colors, and...
Inverted.
Yeah.
The whole idea of them being the contradictions of the fakes and the Fire Sisters thing being essentially a... Wait, what is this track? Ah. The light is bright, sun is shining.
Oh boy. We need steaks.
Uh-huh.
Ah.
Oh.
Now, will she intentionally lose? Or... Oh, you're right.
Yeah. And yeah. Oh. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And I just thought of it too. Ha ha!
He just doesn't want her to realize that he might be pitching a tent down
Anything
there.
less than 180 kilos. Oh my god.
Ugh.
Hmm.
Is she just gonna cut her hair right now?
Oh! No! Wow. Well, she had a good time earlier, dude. Did you see the SR-71 Blackbird in the upper atmosphere space area? Ah! It's all over. Ah! Ah.
Wait, there's...
Yeah. All right. This is an environment we've
for some reason.
Oh.
New character?
Yep, just a little bit. Kagenui Yozaru. Huh. Yeah, Hornet.
No.
Don't you chotomate at me. Ha! Huh? Hanekawa! He's like, I have an excuse to call her.
Yeah. In the woods.
No, I don't know everything. I just know what I know. Yep.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh. How did you know I was going there?
Yeah.
She actually does know everything after all.
Huh. Nice, nice. Yeah, she's got an oddity situation. Oh! Oh!
Okay. Is she the new
Oshino's replacement? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, remember how Oshino had those shoes? Oh. Could she be talking about Shinobu?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but like a girl about that high, like
Oh.
wow.
Okay.
Interesting. Goodbye, SARS. Which is funny because she still sees Kaiki as evil, even though Kaiki is like totally not evil.
Well, he's a con man though, but yeah.
Right. But, you know, Fire Sister's seeing everything in a very black and white kind of way.
Right.
Ah.
Hey,
Hachikuji!
But I've grown.
I'm interested in my sister. See, this is good logic, Araragi. Yes. Only in light of this.
I would love it if she's already walked past by this point.
Yes.
Was that Shinobu?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh my god. Oh. Oh my god. As ever. But potentially accurate. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Half! Wow.
That danger zone sign, like
no human being would ever. Ah! What? What was that?
oh my
gosh. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Karabuki.
But don't forget to ad-lib off of that, too.
Right, yes. Oh. Whoa. So the girl that she was mentioning is here. But she also calls him Devil Boy. Onoki Yotsugi. Right in front of you, obviously.
Caution.
Explanation, yep. I said with the pose look. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, which means she saw you. Yeah.
Why is she saying that?
Yeah. All right, well, some new mysteries to be added in here.
Yeah. And still almost no Tsukihi focus. Like she she has you know, a role and stuff, but like as far as like screen time and interactions with Araragi, like maybe that's the point of it, is that Araragi completely ignores her.
Completely. Yeah. I think that's a huge part of it, because when she was in the story the most, at least in Nisei, she was like a huge focus in the beginning.
Right.
And her whole thing was, pay attention to me. Mm-hmm. And he's, nope, just completely ignoring her.
Everything but that.
Yeah. In fact, he even is ignoring the studying thing that he said, I have 1 minute for Hachikuji. And then she said, do you have the time to be wandering around out here? And he's like, wandering? What?
Yep.
It's like, There's this aspect of Araragi that shirks off like things that are kind of, you know, pressing towards him until they maybe like demand, you know, come in and pull a Senjigahara, and they're like, now we're focusing on this now.
That's probably why. Yeah. That's probably why him and Hachikuji get along so well, though.
Yeah,
like
for sure. Oh, Shinobu. Ha.
Ugh. It's awful.
It does? Okay.
All right.
So we've moved on. Araragi has dodged all the alls.
Yep. I kind of wanted to see just a little bit of like animation of Tsukihi just coming back with the alls and just
or throwing them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I assumed, that she was basically like using them as like thrown daggers, you know.
But this show, much like Araragi, is completely ignoring Tsukihi.
And that's telling. That's telling.
Yep.
Because it's exacerbating the problem, for one.
Right.
And it's, in a meta way, telling us as the audience that this problem is not serious to Araragi.
Right.
Like, Araragi treats, in some ways, or did treat, both of his sisters with kind of an air of like, they're playing their stupid game.
Right.
And since he's recently come to an understanding with Karen, it's a little bit better there. Right. And then, of course, he ends up instigating a meeting between her and Kambaru, which, again, I would have loved to have, you know, some potential, like, hey, what was involved at that meeting?
Like,
but
that
I think
banter would have just been,
Yes. But I think this is, again, another point, is what is Araragi focusing on?
Right.
Araragi is not going to be involved in that conversation. So it doesn't get focused.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be. Like, you know, it's like, okay, there you go, and then boom.
But then we get introduced to these two new characters.
Right.
And so I'm
curious how they're going to tie into all this, because with the thing of Kaiki, it's like, okay, they established very quickly that there was a connection, at least between him and Senjigahara, and then also potentially Kambaru's family.
Yes.
With these characters, if anything, the connection seems to be with Oshino potentially. And even then, that's not explicitly stated. It's just sort of like, okay, they're asking for the place where Oshino was.
Yeah.
But it's like, how is this going to tie into Tsukihi? Because the thing is that
it might not at all.
It might not. It might not. And maybe this is like seeding for something else, or or it's dealing specifically with Araragi or something. But with the way Monogatari functions, everything is there with a purpose, right? And since this is the Tsukihi Phoenix arc, like, maybe it could just be something where they do another mini story, and then Tsukihi comes in at the end and is like, and then it finally boils over that Aragi's been ignoring her, you know. But
sure,
I like, maybe it's just me, but I want to make some connection of how they will tie into Tsukihi's development specifically.
Right. What I think I'm starting to kind of understand a little bit with Monogatari as a series is that the reason why, and I think this keeps coming back as a thing because there's this whole apparent thing about how the watch order is so important. And that means that on some level, the individual story of an episode doesn't matter as much within the confines of an episode. It's all about how it contains and how it pertains to the overarching narrative.
Right. Yes,
which
absolutely.
means that on some level, these girls are important for the overarching narrative because they were introduced and given names.
Sure.
And on some level, they're important to Araragi's overarching story, but they don't have to be necessarily relevant for this episode other than giving us their shtick, their specific kind of maybe teasing of their character and what their purpose is in the story. But as far as, connection and connotation to the characters that they interacted with in addition to Araragi, like Hachikuji and Karen, maybe that's more of just a way to showcase how they react to something that's not Araragi.
Right. Yeah, because like even with Hachikuji, we've had tons of foreshadowing for her arc with pretty much, whenever she's here, but it's very much it's not something that they're dealing with right now. In the same way with like Hanakawa and and all that. So yeah, this is just establishing the next set of characters. Which is cool.
And yeah, that whole aspect of keeping us I would say in the flow or in the know with kind of where things are moving, at least eventually.
Right.
Is a potential example of that. But they did give some interesting commentary on calling him a devil boy, which you were thinking was maybe something that is a clever Oni-chan joke.
Right. It sounded like they were saying Oni-chan or something. There might have been like an extra syllable or something there because devil is Oni, right?
Right.
So devil boy, Oni-chan.
Oh. Okay.
But which is very relevant in this arc or this part of Monogatari in particular. But yeah, we still don't fully know what they are after and how Araragi will be able to help them with that.
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm curious about because it's not so much yeah.
Do you think in some ways they are how in Kizu we had this whole group of people that are basically the ones that deal with oddities.
Sure.
So the vampire hunters, for instance.
Yeah.
But do you think they are those types of people where they are experts about the subject within a subject of like being a knowledge person or sage kind of type? Or do you think they are more because this is what I was sensing, they're more potentially the hunter type. They're the type that's more like the ones in Kizu. Because of the way that Karen recognized a fellow battle master with regards to her body.
Yeah. And then there was the whole thing of Hachikuji noticing as well, even though she had no way of knowing. Like the whole thing of like, even my master might not be able to beat her. You don't have a master,
Well, according to Araragi.
Sure, there could be new information that Hachikuji has that she hasn't shared with Araragi. But
I think almost definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess, but
you think that might have been just a joke, basically.
Yeah, like because there are so many meta fourth wall breaking kind of jokes in Monogatari, and even this episode specifically, that I mean it could be something else, but that was just sort of what it seemed like to me.
Yeah. It just reminds me of when I remember when Senjugahara was basically like kind of acting like Hanakawa was her master, kind of like kind of that whole thing there. It kind of feels like that could be an instance of that.
Yeah. All right.
But it could also just as well be a meta joke.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Hachikuji, we have Karen, but we have actually a lot primarily with Karen here. Like this was primarily a Karen and Araragi, interacting as they go on their walk.
Makes sense
episode.
Considering the previous episode.
It totally does, but there's this kind of goofy fun aspect of them having like basically come on the other side of this funny little moment that they had together in the last episode where Araragi is wondering why is she in such a good mood, and it's like he's disconnected from like how much enjoyment she got out of the whole the toothbrush scene, essentially.
Well, and even before that, because before the toothbrush scene happened, she was just in a great mood.
And that's because of him helping her
exactly,
with the
right. There's a closeness that they have now.
With after the fight,
Right, exactly, because she was able to finally communicate in her own language, right, and he was able to hear, and they were able to finally have good communication and have that conversation, right, that they hadn't been able to have up till now, right, and it was getting bad, or it already was, and it finally came to a head, and now they were able to have that, they were able to really communicate with each other and everything, and finally maybe feel like they're on equal terms. One of the things that I noticed in the previous episode, just looking back on it, is that they showed and they kind of showed it a bit this episode. I know what you're was when Karen when basically Tsukihi had left and they were like, okay, let's do it again, right? And Araragi's like, maybe you can do me this time. They showed Karen as being taller than Araragi.
Yes, I was gonna mention
which is something that is fantastic, because the whole thing is that up till now he's treated them like kids, right? And finally he's not treating Karen like a kid, right? And that idea of her now, she's grown up, right? And now we find that she actually is quite tall, and maybe the whole way that we've been seeing Karen up till now has been simply Araragi's perspective of her, right? Because she towers over Kanbaru.
She does. That was the point where it basically makes you snap out of it and go, whoa, hold on. Yeah. Because everything is framed through Araragi's point of view, he is the only one really we've seen other than Senjugahara interact with Kanbaru.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm pretty sure even Hanakawa hasn't interacted with Kanbaru.
I don't think so.
Like in the same scene.
Well, and
it's
also
people obviously know about each other.
Well, in scenes where they're standing up right next to each other, because if there's a conversation where it's dark or they're sitting down or something like that,
between each other.
Exactly. And then it's harder to tell. And even before they got to that part, when Araragi and Karen were just talking, they were exactly the same height.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then there was almost, like you said, this idea that over the course of time she would creep up and be taller than him also.
Well that was something that was in the previous episode with the toothbrush scene, but then also that notion of height they brought up again with her giving Araragi a ride on her back or on her shoulders.
He's like, and
suddenly he's like, I'm so high up. I don't know if I feel comfortable with this. I'm depending on Karen right now. I don't know if I feel comfortable with this. Right? And
and it was played out for the comedy laughs, which it was very good as far as a funny scene. But it's again our whole joke conversation in the previous episode about Araragi needing to be the top.
Right.
And the joke of it is that Araragi needs to be in control.
Right, because he doesn't really trust.
Right, he doesn't trust other people, which is funny because then he makes the whole kind of snide joke about, yes, you can totally trust your Oni-chan here.
He's all like, I've lied to her thousands of times.
Totally. Just like, why would she be so stupid as to trust me with regards to this here? But then even in some ways, she is surprised when he easily accepts the idea of the whole teaching him the best way to win with rock paper scissors thing. And she's just like, oh, that was actually kind of quick. I'm surprised you agreed to it so quickly. And he's like, no, I'm not gonna try anything here. And she's just like, okay. I think,
and that whole way of coming up with a way to win rock paper scissors, okay, that in some ways that does more than everything else in my mind to show that they are closer.
Yes.
Right? Because the thing is that when you're close to somebody, the filter starts to come off, right?
Yeah.
And you tell them about all the stupid stuff that you think about, right? Yeah. All the just ridiculous stuff.
Yeah,
right?
that you just thought about a few minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly, right. Just spur of the moment, it's like, oh, I thought about something, I'm going to talk to this person about it. Whereas when, say, you don't fully trust someone, right? You don't actually really talk to them about things, and if you do, it's reserved. There's things that you're holding back. You're being very intentional about how you're talking to them about it and things like that. And whereas here, it was very much just I had this idea, and Araragi's like, that's
just
dumb.
Cheating. That's not even a game. Right. It's I thought you were gonna tell me how, well, it's not always winning, but you're going to get this slight advantage because, you know, you're not saying things out loud. He's like, oh, okay, I guess that does give you an advantage. And then it's like, no, it's...
I thought he was going to say, or I thought she was going to say that basically the secret technique is that by going on rock, the person's like, no, you're supposed to go on scissors. And then because they're thinking scissors, you should have gone on scissors, then they'll drop scissors, and then you beat them with rock. But no, it's not that at all.
That would have also been pretty funny.
Yeah.
I did kind of think that too, but then she's talking so fast that she ended up giving away the whole reason.
Exactly. Yeah. And even with things like when she like flips around and stuff, coming to a stop like a lot closer to Araragi, right? Whereas usually they would keep that kind of distance.
Yeah.
You know, almost seeing him in a lot of ways as an enemy of sorts, because they were constantly trying to fight. Right?
Oh,
you know, because there's something that is not understood, right? And we must understand by coming to blows.
Now, this might be some really like weird way of looking into this, but do you think actually because I think you're right with the idea of the genius of him not wanting to rely entirely on her by being up on his shoulders there. But one of the awkward things about getting close to people is that it's kind of messy. Relationships where you're close with people are messy. There's more vulnerabilities and stuff. Yeah. So the whole aspect of them being close involved the awkwardness of like, hey, your knees are bumping up against my breast and your crotch is bumping up against my head. We're close now. There are things about each other that are just awkwardly just kind of bumping into each other.
Right. And they communicate those things as opposed to just lashing out when things bug them.
But here's the thing that's really crazy is that I hope this is something actually I'm supposed to look at it in some ways because I really like it, is that Karen is able to immediately, without like almost any hesitation, cut off her ponytail, something that Araragi thought was a defining feature about her, just because it was an inconvenience in the closeness of their relationship.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas Araragi is not willing to cut off any of those things because those are integral to who he is as a person. And she doesn't pressure him after that. She's just like, make some little joke about that. Right. But that does show in a little way the willingness that Karen has to make the whole aspect of them being close
the relationship work.
Whereas Araragi, he's not really spending much emotional or mental energy thinking about it, so it doesn't necessarily say anything negative about him, but it shows that it's not as much as where his focus isn't on it as much as hers is.
He's not to the level of cutting off his penis, let's just say. Yeah. And then with the whole idea of the cutting of the hair, that's used a lot for the idea of the loss of innocence, the growing up and maturing and basically becoming an adult and suddenly
it's an identity shift.
Right. And also just an identity shift. And a lot of the times it's the shirking, or not shirking has a negative connotation, but the
casting
shedding
okay,
of the
old,
not just the old, but of the fake.
Oh,
the idea that there's something that used to fit. It used to be you back then,
right? But it's not the truest form
because of growing up, right? It's not the truest form of you anymore.
Gotcha. I like that.
And then you get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
And then here, that's something that happens, and it's something that is nonchalant, right? Usually, when you and Araragi mentions that, it's like, whoa, you're just cutting off your hair. Like, what are you doing? You've had that since elementary school. And it's like, no, I don't need it anymore, right? The idea that she's already gone through the internal transformation, so then the idea of having her outward physical appearance manifest and be a reflection of that is something that there's no conflict to. There's no struggle with. It's just something that she just decides. She just comes to a realization of, oh yeah, I'll just do that.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, really random meta thought on this whole idea of Nisemonogatari and fakes and stuff like that. A lot of their characters here, because this is an entirely dialogue-driven narrative, like Monogatari is like so much of it is just dialogue, you know. The whole idea you said recently about you don't just tell people the thoughts you were thinking of at any given moment for those you aren't close to, right? Because you, on some level, you kind of measure a little bit more of the words that come out of your mouth, a little bit more intentional. Do you think that on some level they're bringing up this whole idea of, fakes in terms of the earliness in the story, because on some level there are like there is no one really that is talking with the spur of their thoughts, or there are very few people that are actually talking with the genuine rawness of their thoughts, other than actually in some ways Hachikuji. Now this is a weird way to look at this.
Well, sure, but
I almost think that with the way they've been doing this, you could look at all of their dialogue as something that is off the cuff.
Oh, okay.
Right, just with how fast it is.
Sure.
And we don't really get into other people's kind of thoughts necessarily, really in depth, because we have so much to work with dialogue. We don't need that really. But with how intentional the dialogue is for the meta story, doesn't that in some way make it so that, I mean, Hachikuji, I would say her dialogue has this whole aspect of fumbling, the idea of stumbling,
but very intentionally, right?
Mm-hmm. I guess then that makes her maybe the most.
Well, that's the thing, because maybe that's what makes this fit so perfectly in Monogatari as a show.
Yeah,
because the characters, even when they trust each other, they still do the verbal sparring, right?
Right.
And I guess maybe there wasn't. No, there was still. There was still plenty of verbal sparring between Karen and Araragi this episode, but and even with Sensugahara and Araragi, right? Now Sensugahara has trust issues, right? So there's very much a thing of her doubting and testing and and things like that, right? And
totally. She gets a lot of pleasure out of the verbal sparring, more than I would say almost anyone else in this show.
Right, exactly. There's also the idea that it's the how well do we understand each other, so my moves. You're using Beneto's defense against me, huh?
Right. Yeah. And while everyone on the show, and that's the author kind of coming through all the characters there, everyone on the show loves the verbal sparring stuff.
Totally.
I don't know if we can infer that is something that is a universal trait because it's in all the characters, or because it's how Araragi perceives all the characters.
So then maybe these are the people that he ends up interacting with, and like you could get meta with it like that if you wanted to, of that there's no one else in this world because Araragi doesn't notice the other people in this world, and much in the same way that his sisters were so ignored before, right? They almost didn't exist, and they didn't like that. And the people that he interacts with now, maybe the reason we don't show anybody else is because, for all intents and purposes, there aren't.
Yeah, it's just you opened this whole rabbit hole for me with the idea of dialogue and conversations like this being measured the less trustful you are of people.
Right.
And then Araragi has this scene. I want to bring it up actually in the episode here real quick. Sorry, go on with what you were going to say.
And the idea is that in this, because of how the characters spar and do things like this, I feel like there's a part of it that's showing basically that they are comfortable with each other, hence they know how to do this verbal sparring with each other, and they know that they enjoy it. But people don't necessarily in this show all do the verbal sparring for the same reasons.
Yes.
Now it could be because of how the author writes things and things like that, so that there's just this natural thing that they're all at the very least capable of doing. But yeah, I don't know.
So Araragi has this scene in his head right before he's about to jump Hachikuji. And he's like, geez, I'm certain you all expect me to leap on Hachikuji in a burst of joy. Yes. You all expect me to grab a girl. He's basically talking to the audience in a fourth wall breaking thing of what we all expect of him because we've seen him interact with Hachikuji so many times thus far.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the thing. He basically does all this to convince himself why it's okay for him to do what he's about to do anyway. He's like, but given that I have no interest in her, I have no particular reason to ignore her. If I ignore her, she may get into it.
I should still, at the very least, greet her.
Yeah. Yes. But the thing is that we end up going through this little visual thing, which I think is really cool here. We show Hachikuji and him, and she's pink, he's red. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. We're still referencing red with the Araragi lens here, going back to the whole thing they showed in Kizu with how much red was an important kind of thematic color for the story and stuff. But then Then we bring in green Araragi. Then we bring in blue Araragi.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this gets, complicated here, but it even shows a pink Araragi there in the background there. You see?
Okay, yeah. Uh-huh.
So this is all shadows and stuff and things for him there. But I never really thought about this specifically with Araragi, but maybe his problem, his specific kind of problem that's always been, going throughout this is that he's too much in his head.
Sure.
In some ways, that's another meta commentary on the fact that we kind of just tend to focus on him because he's the main character, obviously.
Right. Well, and we see all these different ways that he responds to situations that he's uncomfortable in.
Yep.
And the ways that he handles that, rarely actually addressing it directly, and instead doing something else to distract the other people around him or whatever.
And there's literally a whole thing about how this is going to be something that won't distract me at all from my important stuff, which is studying.
That they then talk about how he's been, shirking his duties there constantly.
And also faking it potentially to the point where Hachikuji, it's like, wait, Hachikuji, I don't know if I should take 100% as the audience what you're saying seriously, because you're insinuating that he's not even studying at all. He's just pretending like he is so that Hanakawa will like him. Which I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Is he actually doing that? Because as far as I know, we've never seen him actually do studying outside of when Senjugahara basically threw the books down in front of him and was like, get on this, figure this out. So this scene, while I think it is one of the funnier moments in this episode, it seems like more and more they're using comedy as a way to mask actually some pretty
right. And then the question is how many
pretty scary things going on with him.
How deep does the rabbit hole go? How many layers are there?
And
because
that's the thing.
Because that's the thing with Monogatari
no
that's so weird. Is like there's layers, definitely, right? You know that, right? They make it very clear that there are layers.
And sometimes you look too much for them. I do, at least.
Right. And yeah, it's the idea of like, okay, you get a layer. And is that the actual thing? Because it's not just that sometimes it's that there's one layer of indirection, right? Sometimes that's what it is. But a lot of the time it's not. And because the characters oftentimes aren't even aware of the layers of indirection, like that other people are doing or that they're doing themselves, right? You don't know. And then it's like yeah,
I just was made kind of on some level aware about this scene as it being like this is unique. This is not something that they've done really before in the story. So I wanted to pay kind of special attention to it. And then when you brought up the whole idea of the thoughts being more measured, this whole scenario with Hachikuji was essentially premeditated and measured and done and basically prepared to the point where Araragi is like he's never done this with Hachikuji. He just jumps her. He just
Well, and here's another thing maybe.
Yeah.
The whole idea of people doing this with people that they don't fully trust. So does that mean potentially that Araragi doesn't trust himself fully?
Oh.
And that he's doing this as a way to convincing the audience. Sure, fourth wall breaking, great comedy. That's fine. But what if there was something else to it? Why would Araragi be doing something that is fourth wall breaking? In that
he's trying to convince himself.
He's trying to convince himself, right? He's trying to convince himself that this is what I must do. And and I could definitely see, because of like how trippy this show is, that could be a reflection on Araragi's like internal state of how he thinks about things and whatnot, right? Because this is all from his perspective, right?
It's an interesting thing to go into, and I feel like this episode doesn't really tell us that it's important to go into this now. It's just more of a thing of reminding us, and that's maybe the thing that made this episode feel, I would say, like less interesting even than the last episode, but also more like, well, wait a minute, there's a larger story going on here. Because they mentioned Hanakawa, they mentioned this whole thing with well, I mean, they had to fulfill the promise with Kanbaru and Karen, but they kind of reminded us, Hachikuji, don't forget about Hachikuji.
Right, like, there was a lot of future stuff that this episode was dealing with, whereas, let's just say the previous episode was a lot more present-oriented.
As actually, like, I've kind of come to appreciate about Monogatari, is that they are taking the immediate, specific things a little bit more... not seriously, but
I totally get it.
More
and maybe
intense intent,
right? And maybe that's why these characters showing up felt a little bit jarring, is because it's like, it's this reminder that no, there are other things that we're dealing with,
there's a
other
larger
plot lines that
story
we're setting up and things like that. Yeah, and I also just have to shout out, because I have to shout out this.
Yeah,
Shinobu tripping him.
Tripping him. That was just like, oh, that's good.
That was wonderful. That was good. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I love how much Shinobu has this kind of playful aspect with Araragi, but it's way different than all the other characters' playful aspects with Araragi, because hers is something where she still maybe thinks of herself as, like, you know, the master and he's the servant kind of thing, even though
she has the ego of a 500-year-old vampire.
Exactly. Her ego comes out in a very funny way.
And also the whole idea of she can hear his thoughts. So she is listening to this rambling as well.
Yes.
Of him convincing himself, and I can imagine her just being like, oh God, let me sleep.
Yeah.
Right? So then he's like, okay, here goes. And she's just like, nope. In the same way that Araragi has been tripping over himself.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure.
She trips him up. There you go. Face plants. Boom.
Do you think then that the conversation between Hachikuji was a little bit more, I don't know, meaningful? Because do you think Shinobu was actually trying to help him in some ways, or do you think she was just dicking around for fun?
I'm not sure.
Because I actually think on some level there's a non-0% chance that she was actually trying to help him a little bit.
Potentially.
By getting out of this whole, like, you know, thing about doing the perfect thing, essentially, when he interacts with Hachikuji. But yeah, this episode was an episode, and I liked the lightheartedness of it after the ridiculous over-the-topness of the previous episode.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a bit of a tonal shift, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction discussion right now, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there, and any level support gets you access to our Discord, where you can chat with us about these stories. You can chat with the community there about these stories. You can chat with us about anime in general. You can get involved at the community events there. Or you can also get involved talking to Jake about his story that he just finished writing.
Indeed, my sci-fi novel, Battle Lines. It is available for purchase on Amazon. The link is in the description down below. Go check it out. It's a pretty great story.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.